Hello everyone, Happy New Year and welcome back to another fantastic episode of your weekly PlayStation podcast, Talking the PS, where we round up all of the gaming and PlayStation news every week for your listening or viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/Helix Plays Games and up there in the digital clouds on your podcast preference of choice. You're joining us for a very special episode, a very interesting episode this week because there is no news. So we're going to be talking about all of the PlayStation 5 games coming this next year, PlayStation's first-party exclusives and what they're up to, and everything else in between. But I couldn't do that without my wonderful two co-hosts joining me once again for the first time in 2023, even though we're recording this technically in 2022. The man of many pixels, returning again. Welcome back, Richie. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Chris.
How are you?
I've been better. We went out drinking the other night, and I think I've come out with a cold immediately after it.
Yeah, that
I'm okay.
happen.
I'm in that kind of point where it's like, oh, this could just be a bit of a sore throat and passes in a day or two, or this could be, I'm at the start of like the descent.
That weakened immune system will do that. Day of recovery, not too good. But join them, also recovered, maybe. Our chaotic neutral Rob. Happy New Year. Welcome back.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Looking forward to everything that 2023 brings to the Helix Plays.
Yeah, there's loads in the pipeline, and that's a perfect segue, Rob, into all of our other amazing shows we have here on the channel, like XPass, our weekly Xbox podcast, where yesterday we broke down all of the Xbox news ahead for the year of 2023 in Game Pass and beyond. Also, over on the channel, we have my definitive playthrough of The Last of Us Part 1 Remaster, going very, very well. I think I'm like 9 hours into it. I'm just reaching Tommy's Dam, for those who are familiar with the game. Slightly slower pace than I was expecting initially, but I feel like that's down to my own meticulous nature. I still have to look in every drawer and every cupboard for any scrap of material, even though my inventory is full, and it's been full for most of the game because I'm playing it on an easier mode. I still have to check everywhere just for that one rag, that one bit of cloth, that bottle of alcohol. I need to find it.
The ironic thing is you have multiple platinums in this game. It's like there's absolutely no need of them. That just like that nature.
It's just
or like
how I play.
I have it as times like I'm playing through Plague Tale Innocence at the moment. I keep looking. Don't care about trophies.
Just keep going.
Just enjoy the game.
Just enjoy the game. Yeah, it is one of those things. I think I've actually found most of the Firefly pendants, even though I don't need to get. They're useless. They are meaningless to me in this playthrough. And yet, every time I'm near one, I'm like, oh, there's one up in that tree. There's one just under there. Just pick it up. But I digress. The reason we talk about The Last of Us so much is because now we're in 2023. We can remind you, lovely folks out there, that in fact we have a brand new show launching this, about 2 weeks from now, actually, with the tying in with the new HBO adaptation available on Sky in the UK. HBO Max, I think, in the States and elsewhere in the world on your, preference of choice, whatever your local streaming company is. We'll be breaking down that on the ClickerCast, our brand new show, live every Tuesday after the show is aired on TV. We'll get together, break it down, discuss it, talk about comparisons, character development, arcs, everything like that. And I'm looking forward to it because it's something very, very different. So don't forget to follow the ClickerCast over on Twitter, along with Helix Plays Games, so you're kept in the loop with all of the great content. And of course, do not forget to like, subscribe, and click that bell. But gentlemen, we touched on it a little bit there. I want to throw it over to you guys. Richie, you mentioned it, so I'll pass it over to you. We know what you've been playing, but tell us a bit more about what you've been playing over this Christmas break.
So I platinumed God of War.
Hey, congrats.
So it's done. So this will be the last time we talk about God of War in terms of in the what we've been playing section, unless till Rob starts. And then we'll continue that into 2023. But when I finished God of War, I was like, what do I play next? It's like, it was, as I mentioned before, I can't remember if I wasn't talking to PS or XPass. It was between Chained Echoes and Plague Tale Innocence. So like I did the thing where you just like I'll just play an hour of both of them and see which one
tickles your fancy.
Yeah, see which one in that. It's like one of them. I like both of these games, but they're very different games. Like which one am I in the mood for? And Plague Tale got one.
Wonderful. How far in are you? Spoiler free.
Spoiler free. I've just been to the guy's farm, got the apprentice.
All right, cool. Okay. There's quite a brutal part that follows briefly after you meet that guy.
There's quite a lot of brutal parts in this game, but to be honest, what I'm liking about it is it's very linear, and it's not trying to be like, you know how every game like was like kind of like linear and then suddenly had to be an open world RPG.
Yeah,
it's not. It doesn't care about it. Like it's just like we're going to tell the story. It's like, it reminds me a bit of like Uncharted or The Last of Us in that kind of sense, where the world does feel bigger than the bits you experience, but it does keep you on that path going through the game.
Yeah, it is quite too. The puzzles are
It's
quite
very
enjoyable.
manageable. It's kind of nice in that way. Like, after going from a bigger game like God of War, and I've still got Pokemon on the go, which is huge. It's nice to just go, this is going to be a linear game. It's not going to be that long, I'm guessing, like with how the rate I'm getting through it.
Yeah, I'd say you're probably just coming up on, maybe just over a third of the way through, maybe coming up on halfway, depending on how much you put into it.
And I think I'm about 5 or 6 hours in. Like,
yeah, that sounds about right.
So it's probably a 20-hour game or something.
I'd say a fair bit less. I'd say 15, if that.
Yeah.
But glad to see that you're enjoying it. How about you, Rob? What are you playing?
I've been getting high on life for the past kind of week or so.
You've been getting high on life? Or have you been playing high on life?
I was trying to do a play on. I was trying to do a play on words, but you've ruined it now. So thank you, Chris. But no, I'm about. I think I'm approaching the end now, from what I can tell, and I'm really liking it. I was a bit worried when I started playing it that I would get annoyed by the humor because, like, I don't think I dislike Rick and Morty's style of humor. I dislike the fans. I think I've realised.
Right.
I don't like the way people kind of talk about the humor of like Rick and Morty is like that annoys me for some reason. So
they talk about it as if it's elevated comedy. It's not.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
it's great. It's good. It's funny. It's like it's quite. Yeah, at times it is quite intellectual, but it's not like world changing. Like,
yeah, right. So
make out.
So I was a bit worried that was going to like tar my enjoyment of the game, but it's not. It's a fantastic little game, and this I think one of the best things is you can turn down the amount that your gun talks in the options menu, which is like a fantastic thing. But no, I've been really enjoying it. Like, kind of solid fundamental shooters, and some great writing.
Fantastic. Can we all agree then in that I think it's the second world you go to, the little fly guy who follows you for like a chunk of the map, who you can't shoot because he just dodges you and goes, oh, you tried to kill me there, oh, I guess you can't get me there. And it's like, I thought through our first look playthrough, Richie, I figured that we would eventually be able to kill him at the end and it would be so satisfying because he did not shut up. And then he just disappeared and went off to, I think have sex or go on a date or something with another one of his kind. But it was, I was expecting like a big crescendo moment where it's like you finally get to kill him or trap him. And you might later on in the game, but that was too much.
That was the only point. That was the only point, during our like live stream where I thought like this is a bit much. It's a bit, like, I wish that wasn't there.
End,
Like,
the thing with the game is I don't trust who you can kill and who you can't. Like, for anybody who hasn't played it, like there's a part with a kid.
Yeah.
And like that got me, and I was okay. I don't trust anything like this game does now. Yeah, and then someone like I got screwed over by like watching a guy's bike as well.
Well, he just told you to watch his bike for him. Why he went and did something.
Well, like you get told to like watch the bike, and then I don't care what's what. I was like, cover your ears if you don't want to hear this, listeners. But you get told to watch a bike, and then as soon as you pan your camera away and like turn back, the bike's just disappeared, and then the guy comes up again, and it's like. So I do like how it screws you over.
I can imagine very Justin Roiland style, like, hey, what the fuck, where's my bike? Was what you were supposed to watch the bike? Oh, no, why were you doing this? I told you, I thought I could trust you, man. And you're just like silent protagonist there going, I'm sorry, my bad. Yeah, really, really funny. It seems to obviously getting loads of plaudits as well. I'm sure we'll talk about it on XPass this week. Anything else in between, gents? Richie, you mentioned Pokemon. I'm on the Pokemon train as well. Not as much as you probably.
I dip in and out of Pokemon. It kept I played a lot during the World Cup, and it kind of like petered out a bit. Just after the World Cup, I know focus on God of War. I pick it up a bit, but I think the world is too big, to be honest, in that game. It's too big. It's a bit too open, actually. In some ways, it's doing the whole this every game needs to be a massive open world thing. Like 10 years late, and what I've found is, because I am the guy like you, I'm looking at every nook and cranny, and like every thing that is on the map that's like a shiny thing. I pick an item to pick up, and there's millions of them. I'm picking them all up, so I'm doing like full explore of every area, and I feel like I'm just spending a lot of time looking at the map, going, right, I'll explore this little bit, and then I'll explore this next little bit to try and like manage my way through it. But all my Pokemon are like level 60,
right?
And like I'm not even halfway through the game in terms of like badges and stuff. It's like,
so you're just wiping the floor with anything that comes along.
Pretty much, yeah.
That sounds about right. Yeah, I'm only about probably 3 hours into my playthrough, and I'm stuck between lots of big things. Obviously, Christmas and stuff, seeing family and going out and stuff with friends at the same time. But then it's just, I started The Witcher obviously before, so that's a big commitment. Me and the wife have started playing through The Last of Us Part 2, which you were saying about Plague Tale Innocence, like Part 1 compared to Part 2, it opens up a lot, and I was saying to her that a lot of the time you actually lose most of your time just in scavenging, but unlike The Last of Us 1 where it is quite linear, 2 has so many more wider open areas when it's no longer just one end of the street to the other. It's one end of the street, but there's 4 or 5 shops with different floors to go through, and I find myself just lost exploring and searching and reading the memos and the notes that are left by all the non-seeing characters. And
that's part of the game, I suppose, like when you get invested in the lore.
And the way we're playing through it, I'm trying to make it very cinematic. So I'm on the sticks. I'm trying to like make sure we see and find every note. She reads the notes out, and then we kind of go through it and create that world, knowing fine well that the TV show starts in like 2 weeks. So it's trying to prep and get everything lined up. But we're having a great time with it. We're quite far through. And again, interested getting her takes on the game from being an outside the games industry. All of the hoo-ha around Last of Us Part 2 with characters, development, plot lines. And we're through. Looking back, I'm like, it's an absolute masterpiece. I don't care what anyone says. That game is fucking gorgeous. It plays brilliant. The gameplay is fun. The world is. I just think people got their knickers in a twist because it got leaked ahead of launch and stuff. But it's undeniable. I think people will look back in 10 years and it will get a lot more praise than it probably did initially.
I think it's at one moment in the game where like I think everyone has this in their head from like the first one, like Joel is the protagonist of the series, where actually it's Ellie is the protagonist of the series. You're just playing as Joel.
Yeah, I'd even say it's the world more than the actual people in it. It's kind of like what happened with The Walking Dead, for better or for worse. That's like, it's not about just 4, 5, 6 people. It's the shit that's happened in the world, and everyone's coping with it. Everyone's dealing with it. And again, it's that joke of we're going through with Ellie on her story mission. It's like, I'm murking like 10, 15 people every day here, like straight up killing them in the neck. And it's like they had families, kids, relationship, pets, a life of their own. It's like, why is she any better than everyone else in that world just because she has a vendetta? It's like, well, actually, the person you killed, you've just spun off his own story about how now he's died and his kids are left on their own. Or again, we could go down that rabbit hole. But
it's an interesting perspective, that, isn't it? Because like I remember the kickoff for Metal Gear Solid 2 when that released, and
right.
people realised you didn't play as Snake or whatever. Yeah. But like I think Kojima was like, I think the quote was something like we've told the story through like some like Snake's eyes. Now we're telling a different element of the story. Like it's still about him.
Yep.
But it's through a different character's perspective, and I think that's what Part 1 for Last of Us was too. And he said and he specifically said you can enhance the story by changing perspective of a character. So
they absolutely do that.
Like the dual protagonist of Last of Us Part 2, I thought was great because you are telling the same story, but you're getting both sides of the story rather than just going, Ellie's the good guy, Abby's the bad guy. And actually, when you think about it, in The Last of Us Part 1, Joel is not a good person. Like, straight up, not a good person.
Yeah,
he's done some shit. Seen some shit.
Yeah, he does some shit throughout the game. Like, his main redeeming quality is that he generally seems to be fond of Ellie.
Yeah.
That's about it. Like,
well, there was a part in my Let's Play this week. I did the bit when you get attacked, they crash the bus into your car. And you're kind of like finding Ellie's talking to him after going, what the fuck's that guy's problems? And he's like, oh, that's just that's what they do. And then he actually says to her, like, I've been on both sides of it. And she's like, what, you've done shit like that? And he just like grunts. And it's like, this guy's like done some shady shit. But again, because we are playing,
he's done what he needs to survive, but that doesn't make him a good person.
And it is that thing where it's like, but because we're playing as him, we build that affinity for him as our video game character, and we're the guy controlling him. So I think you automatically just build up this emotional attachment to this person. It's like, well, actually, like most video games, you're killing hundreds of people. Any game you play, like Call of Duty, you might be like a soldier, but you're straight up just killing people inexcusably.
Like Uncharted. Uncharted.
Nathan Drake is a mass murderer.
Yeah, straight up.
For treasure,
like,
that's it.
Yeah, it's like, it's not even like I'm mass murdering for cause. It's just greed with it.
Yeah, and they doesn't keep the treasure at the end either, which is just stupid. So he just murders for no reason. He doesn't even have like a wealthy mansion and legacy.
It's not even like, oh, I've been to this place, I'm an archaeologist and stuff, I'm going to bring this, like so people can know the things that happened here. It's like, no, it's purely for his own gratification. Yeah. But I think with The Last of Us, you have to kind of just put aside the kind of concept of just like, I'm the hero, everyone else is the baddie, because I think everyone is in that murky grey area. Every single character is like, there's no like definitive good people or definitive evil people. Everyone is everyone is trying to survive and doing what they need to get by. Some people become mercenaries, some people become freedom fighters, other people become smugglers. Yeah, people join cults, and like I think it is that like everyone's trying to figure out in this world how to survive, because the way the world, if you think about the law of the game, how quickly the world descended from basically the world we know now to that. Like, we're talking like, a couple of years.
Yeah, I'm sure there's like a famous quote which is like, society will descend into chaos within like 21 days or something, because once the food and the water stops, that's when survival instincts kick in and you just do what the hell you can to survive. Hopefully we never get to that point. But my wife said a really good line with when we're talking about the scars that were introduced there, Richie. So you say like people have like the different kind of followings and beliefs that they build up to. Yeah. And the scars, she just kind of like, after we found a few notes and a few of the graffiti things on the wall, she's basically like, looks like a cult, sounds like a cult, probably is a cult. As we're like getting up on them, it was like, yeah, this is just another group of people who've got this weird fascination thing in their head, and there's no government or anything to really dictate what happens, so just the extremes just get pushed to the max. But well, I no doubt we'll talk about it way more when the ClickerCast launches in 2 weeks' time, and we can start to talk about the comparisons with the show. And we don't know what elements they're going to bring in from the second game into the series, and how much of season 1 is going to cover all of the first game. But it's going to be very interesting to see how a writer's room of professionals sat down and actively picked out like the best parts, the best characters, whose stories they want to flesh out a little bit more, go in detail. And the most important thing I'm looking forward to is, because it's a TV show, we get to see those different perspectives. We're not just seeing Joel and Ellie's journey. We're going to bounce around and see all these other characters in their own time, away from Joel and Ellie, how they talk, how they think, like from the outside looking in, how it looks. And I think it's going to have a very different dynamic to this world that we know already.
I actually kind of hope, I mean, we'll probably talk about this in ClickerCast episode 1, but I hope they don't tell the full story of the first game in one season. I think you can take a bit of a slower pace with this, explore the world a bit more.
I prefer that. I think, again, HBO know what they're doing, and everyone's involved, and I'm sure they've got that kind of timeline of, do we want to do 3 seasons, 4 seasons? Like, how can we make the most out of this? Because I really do think whatever their plans for the show are, I think Sony production studios, TV and video game, will probably want it to crescendo with the third game coming out, which means they need a good 5-year gap to help build on that. And we've still got Factions supposedly coming out next year, which is the perfect segue into the first thing we'll talk about this particular episode, which is the PlayStation 5 games coming in 2023. And one of them probably will be Factions, because Naughty Dog, let's face it, they've been working on it for 2-3 years now, on top of the launch of The Last of Us Part 2. So big studio, don't know what they're up to. But I'll throw the list over to you guys. You've got the link. There's plenty of games coming out. We've got a very stacked Q1 for 2023. I'll throw it over to you. Where do you start? What's got your interest at the beginning of the year? What are you looking forward to playing? Either, feel free to take it.
I mean, I'll kick off because it's probably like one of the earlier games that comes out, but it's the Dead Space remake. Like, I'm a bit kind of cautiously optimistic about it. But with the way kind of Callisto Protocol kind of fell out the gate, I need that kind of survival horror injection. So,
and you've played this before, right? Like fully through.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I played the entire series.
Where do you hold it then in your esteem when you look back at video game history? Is this like right up there with the best of the best, or is it?
It's one of those franchises which kind of fell from grace very quickly, really. So the first one, absolutely superb. I loved it. The second one was kind of definitely more of the same, and not in a bad way, but just kind of this thing I really liked. I got lots more of. The third one kind of fell off for me a little bit because they kind of went down like the Resident Evil trap where they started giving you more items and they started like kind of getting away from the route. So I didn't like the third as much, and then obviously it's kind of, the franchise kind of floundered since then, really.
That seems like the pretty much assessment pretty much everyone had. Like, you came up with a survival horror game, then you turned it into just a straight up action horror game. People were like, meh.
Which you can buy actual guns in it, like with money. It just didn't work at all on that regard. But I'm hoping this one's back to form and none of like the bullshittery of like these like pay to win mechanics in it. But I'm cautiously optimistic about it.
So when you say you can buy
EA
guns, you actually meant like microtransaction buy guns.
Yeah.
Right.
As in,
okay.
like,
Yeah. So yeah,
which
it'd been EA'd basically, like ultimate.
Yeah,
EA.
definitely. Yeah. And it's
I think
just
that was kind of the start of the descent of like into the microtransaction era of like EA and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
And
I
like
think they have backed away from that.
yeah, like I'm not completely against microtransactions in like
Me either.
for certain games. Like, but survival horror, it just doesn't work. Like
For me,
even cosmetics ruin the feel of a game like that. So
my thing with cosmetic microtransactions is I don't care, because they don't change how the game plays. I don't feel I'm getting locked out of content because I haven't pulled my credit card out again. And if you want to change the look of your character for your playthrough, you do that. You have fun. Especially if in like things like a first-person game, when it's like, I find it weird, like when there's like heavy microtransactions around cosmetics in the first-person games, like, but you don't see your character. Like,
yeah.
But again, if it doesn't it doesn't change the experience for me, so I very rarely bother with them.
So in terms of the game itself, then, so I've never played Dead Space Remake, and I actually think similar to what you were saying there, Rob, with the way the Callisto Protocol came out, we always knew there was going to be some kind of impact, for better or for worse, with the launch of Callisto Protocol. It's literally made by the people who made this game, Dead Space. So it had that spiritual successor energy. It had the money that Crafton and the PUBG team brought to it. It had the kind of the hype of coming out first. And I think that probably if they looking at the reviews stuff, it didn't do 2, but I think it was like 6s and 7s for the most part.
Yeah.
But I think they maybe know in their own heart of hearts, they maybe missed a trick with some of the things with Callisto. Whether that was just down to experience the team, because again, brand new studios. It's all well and good saying you've got the old directors and stuff on, but in the marketing seemed to be quite heavy for it. It was at the Game Awards quite a lot. But all I heard from people who loved the Dead Space remake was just, I'm now looking more forward to playing Dead Space Remake again. So as someone who's not played either, this was always my kind of radar was going to be, if Callisto comes out and reviews really well, I might just jump onto that and think I can be day one on the franchise like everyone else is, or do I just entrust the fact that they're remaking this game for a reason, and evidently if Callisto hasn't hit for a lot of people, why I might as well just be patient another month and enjoy the reincarnation of one of the best horror games of all time in its best ever form. So I think I've probably done the right decision here.
Yeah, I'd say so. It kind of happened to me as well. So I bought Callisto Protocol kind of on release, and there was like a lot of technical issues on the PC version as well.
That was the worst, wasn't it?
Oh, it was really bad. Like, especially for like, since I've just like upgraded my computer and I was like really looking forward to a game I can push. Like,
you've got a pretty solid hardware. It's not like my GPU it's a couple of generations old. I could see it maybe struggling with it, but yours should be just eating that alive. Like,
so I started playing it, and like for like a PC, like I was like looking at like my temperatures and things like that for like my GPU, and it was just skyrocketing for like no apparent reason. And the final thought I went through my head was like, this is not worth the stress and like the kind of chew on to make it work properly when there's a better version, like another kind of survival horror game coming out in a few months. I'll just get my refund and I'll just wait for that, and then maybe I'll pick up Callisto Protocol on a sale at some point when it's fixed.
Yeah, I've just been reading some Steam reviews, and kind of one of the overarching themes was things like the story feels a bit bloated, the combat's a bit bland, and it's like it's a fine game, but wait for a sale. Even those who are like marking it as recommended are kind of saying, wait for a sale, don't pay full price, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely. If it was like if it was on its own within the genre, because obviously like Resident Evil's not dropping for a while, and then kind of like it would have done a lot better if there wasn't kind of competition right on its doorstep, I think.
Yeah, I think it's made people's decisions more interesting than they probably would have been. If there was another 6 months until Dead Space, it would have been, oh, well, they're so far apart, it doesn't matter. But I think, yeah, for better or worse, they've probably both helped each other out, to be fair, because, again, like, any publicity is good publicity, right? So Callisto's probably done loads just off the back of that. And I guarantee when Dead Space does launch, you'll probably see Callisto will have a spike in sales just by proxy of it's a similar thing and it's a new game, and it'll probably be on sale come end of January as well. Callisto strikes me as a game that'll be like Game Pass or PlayStation Plus, like come this coming Halloween.
Yeah.
Like around August, September, October, it'll go on there, and it'll be like, oh, awesome, just in time for spooky season, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and hopefully like the bugs will be fixed by then. I don't think you can do much with when people call the combat bland and stuff. That's basically just what the game is, unfortunately. But yeah, hopefully like it's one of them once it get. I think it's probably one of them that's maybe just been overhyped, because like I think this Callisto was probably more looked upon like it as the one that's more of the two between this and Dead Space, the one that's more likely to be the success.
Yeah,
because it doesn't have the baggage of EA and what EA did to the series. It has the original like developers involved, so it's like the people who made the original games minus EA. You feel like it was advantage them coming out. And from hearing you talk and reading reviews, it looks like maybe the squandered that advantage. Yeah. But hopefully, if it comes to like PlayStation Plus or Game Pass or something, it'll find its audience properly.
Yeah. Maybe the reality is they just reached the peak of their ability. Like a brand new studio, like you can only do so much, right? And like the budget only goes so far, and like this is what we've had to work with. And again, it's not done bad. It's just maybe they've missed the best opportunity, because now the sequel is always going to be compared and contrasted and such. But
as you were saying, they might be like the team's the same more or less, but that team's working in a completely foreign environment in terms of like resources and like internal structures and things like that.
But are they? Because we're talking, it's about 10, 15 years since like Dead Space was originally made. It's like people change in that time a lot. The industry's changed a lot, so like whatever creativity they've drawn on back when they made the first Dead Space, that's probably no longer valid. Their life experience has changed, and
100%.
I think life experience goes hand in hand with creativity, for better or worse.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely. But speaking of creativity, Richie, Forspoken's kind of the next on the dock that you were interested in. Is this completely fell off your radar now, do we think? Or is there still that little itch maybe to jump into it?
It went from looking like a day one purchase to wait for the reviews. I think the demo, I'm wondering, was it just a bad demo? And it just, I don't know, the demo just didn't vibe with me at all. But there again, you got no real sense of the story, no real sense of the world. You just got chucked into the combat, and the combat is like, it's pretty solid action combat, but without the context of everything that's going on around.
It felt a bit odd.
Yeah, well, I'm not the biggest action guy anyway. Like, I like action, but for me, the action has to be backed up by the consequence of what you're doing. And that's why I think, like, with Plague Tale, why I'm really enjoying it, because, yeah, the action is very much, it suits your characters and suits the world that's going in. This just felt like there's a lot of particle effects on screen. A bit. And I'm like, yeah, and I'm just like, it looks really pretty, and it could be fun, but I don't know who this character is. I don't know this sword. Why is it talking to me?
Yeah, it's the wrist strap, I think, not the sword.
Is it?
Yeah, I think she gets like imbued with some kind of like special Miss Marvel kind of wristband thing, and that's what gives her the magic powers come out of the wristband. But again, that's what I've derived from the demo part I played too.
Yeah, there's some great writers on the story, but I don't think the demo showed off their work. I think maybe they did the wrong thing with the demo. I think it might have actually been better to not release a demo.
Interesting. Yeah.
But I think this is a wait for reviews, but it's not a day one purchase for me. And as I said, I'm now on Plague Tale, and then I've got Plague Tale to play after that as well.
Yeah, Requiem to follow. Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's I've never really been one for the Final Fantasy ones, as we know, and this kind of looks like it leans into that.
It's more action. I think. Yeah, it is. It does feel like if they took a Final Fantasy game and went full on action with it, rather than like the semi-turn based or turn based stuff that you usually get with like JRPGs.
Yeah, indeed. But I'm kind of similar to you with it. Played the demo. Like, enjoyed, like you said, the gameplay was fun. I just had no context for why I was doing anything. And again, it could just be a demo. So I think I'm kind of with you. It's PlayStation's first exclusive of the year. It's one of the only ones we really know about. It's made by Square Enix and Luminous Productions. So this was, again, Sony just splashing the cash and getting this as an exclusive, presumably for a year at least. And I do always think that they wouldn't, Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo stuff, they wouldn't splash the cash to get a game exclusive if there wasn't something special there. Because like you can imagine they look at all of the games Square Enix are working on, and they might get first pick like a draft of what you want for 2023, 2024 and beyond. The Sony team, marketing and such, will have had to look at this and go like, that's something we can push that fits in with kind of Sony's ecosystem. So I'm expecting maybe looking at it, I'd probably say 7s and 8s, which is good, but is it enough?
Yeah, that's a kind of if it comes out, and I'm expecting it to be like maybe a 7, which is kind of I'll enjoy it. I'll happy play 7, but when you got 8 to 9 stacked up, it's like, do I just wait? Is this one of them a PlayStation Plus game in the making? Really, is like next year. Is that when I play it rather than now?
Yeah.
One more I do want to mention is One Piece Odyssey is like it comes out in like 2 weeks, and it's a tactical turn-based RPG, which feels like it should be up my alley. I like One Piece, but there's something about that game it's one, I need to see the reviews, and this needs to, if this comes out and it's like 9s and 10s, it might be okay, I'm going to go buy it, but I'm expecting 6s best. I don't know why. I think it's because it's that anime game. It's just like, there's so many anime games out there that are just cheap cash-ins, like.
But as a fan, do you not feel like you'll still enjoy it, though? Because it says in the description the game is designed to celebrate 25 years of the One Piece franchise. And I feel like anything that's been going that long, as a fan of it, even though you know it's going to be shit, I feel like you'd still enjoy it for the characters, the world, and just like the cheesiness of it all.
Yeah, I think I would. Like, I think I enjoyed playing World Seeker on Stadia. We got first look on the channel. But it was very much a one-sitting game, and there's like then it's like after like, okay, I'm playing a One Piece game. The world looks pretty nice and interesting. What's going on? I was like, I'm done.
I don't know.
It's because it's not. It's one of them things. It's because it's not canon.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is just filler stuff. None
It's
of
like
this
very
has any real consequence. Yeah. So I was like, yeah.
Fair enough. One Piece. Rob, throw it back over to you. Anything else in the docket for? You mentioned Resident Evil 4 briefly through your Callisto chat. Is that on your radar too?
Absolutely. That's going to be. I hope it's going to be my game of the year for 2023.
Right.
That's the perfect situation. The only thing that makes me a bit worried is how they say they're reimagining the story a little bit. I don't quite know what that means. That makes me a little bit nervous. I think what was the quote they had? Give me a second. It was something like, "We're keeping the general narrative, but reimagining it in it." And I'm like, no, the narrative was fine. Don't like update the controls, update the graphics, and that's it.
I'm with you there. It feels like if you're remaking a game, it's not the story that you want like changing. That's usually the reason that you're remaking the game, because people fell in love with that story and want to experience it again for like modern tech.
Yeah. So yeah, the exact line was reimagining the storyline of the game whilst keeping the essence of its direction, which is just maddeningly vague. But that said, like Resident Evil 4 is probably like the one game which I always try to go and play it through again, but like the controls and the kind of the general UI is just it's a barrier to enjoying the actual game now.
Filter on everything as well.
Yeah,
it'll
it's
be
just
nice
like
to play the game without having everything just to be like a yellowy, orange, brown.
Yeah, but I hope to change like the escort style mission as well, because that just gets annoying after a while. Where like for a big chunk of the game, because you haven't played it, have you? I don't think.
I've played bits. I've done the bit I'm immediately thinking of. I don't know where I played it, but I definitely remember it. It's where there's loads of like, I feel like wooden cross beams and such, and you're kind of running around from random in like a little village open like town square area.
Yeah,
there's a guy
okay,
with chainsaws. They're trying to hunt you. I just remember there being lots of wood everywhere.
Yeah, that's a lot of the game. But for a big
wood.
chunk of it, you're escorting like this useless little girl who just keeps getting captured all the time. So I'm hoping that they pull back a little bit on that, because I think escort missions have kind of
had to serve the time.
a bit out of favour now, aren't they?
Yeah, yes and no, but I think they've done a lot better, because you could argue Last of Us Part 1 is it one long escort mission.
Ellie is quite
But
independent,
it's not-
though, thanks to modern
It's
AI
not your
and whatnot.
yeah. Well, that's it. It's like it's not your classic.
Follow me.
Well, even Plague Tale's an escort mission. It's not like your classic RPG. Like, bring this person to this location, and that person, like, the AI is so bad it gets stuck on a tree for 10 minutes and get killed.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you get to the things like, you were just behind me. Where have you gone? Like,
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
something
but-
can be said for our Resident Evil. Just looking at the success Capcom have had, like RE2 remake was one of the best games of that year. It came out. RE3 remake, even though the turnaround was a lot shorter, that still reviewed very, very well. I think with this being the height of the
it was
franchise.
they were planned to be released together. That's
Yeah.
why, and then they just split them out.
yeah, but I think they've done nothing but good things since then, and it's helped in a way revive like 7 and Village sales. Like the Capcom have had such a resurgence with Resident Evil now, but we are hitting that interesting point after 4. That is when the franchise started to veer into the action oriented heavy. So it's like, have they now hit that kind of cross point where do they go? Do they make 5 again, but then put out 8?
I think you could maybe get away with remaking 5, but definitely not 6. Like, that's too kind of
Them two
current.
are kind of like the lower ebb of the series.
And yet,
aren't
one of
they?
the best selling of the series. So that was always the ironic thing, is they got criticised for going action oriented, but like I think Resident Evil 6 was like the best seller before Village came out. So
Yeah, I don't think sometimes like the sales don't tell the full story, because how many things might have been sold and people played a couple of hours and never went back to.
True.
You have to look at that retention as well. Like,
In personally,
how many
I like,
people actually roll credits.
Yeah, like I like them all for like for various reasons. Like the thing that kind of like made me play through all of 6 isn't the same thing that made me play through all of 4. But I think they all still have like the merit. If not just like super steroid Chris from number 5 with like punching a boulder. Like that was like the peak.
I've seen that meme. Yeah. I'm interested in it all. Again, I think thanks to the content we've done this channel, I think mine and Richie's kind of veil on horror games being like a niche genre that I'm not interested in. It's kind of opened my eyes into actually there's kind of a very fine line. Like playing through The Last of Us, it's very much a horror game. The Last of Us Part 2 especially, there's bits where I think I was in a room last night with like 6 or 7 stalkers and they're all hiding, and I was at a torch in the dark going through, and I was saying like, this is just, I'm just playing a horror inspired Resident Evil thing. So it's like, why wouldn't I? And if they're remaking them, what better time to jump in? Like I've enjoyed Village and Biohazard 7, so why not? And I prefer third person, so this should be right up my street. I am curious to think if they ever actually just go back and remake 1 for like the 50th time, because it does bug me that 2, 3, and 4 are now going to exist in this gorgeous RE Engine version. And the last version of 1 was the GameCube remake, right? Or one of the spin-offs of that?
Which is now like a legacy console.
Which is a shame, because I would like them all just in one big RE collection.
Yeah, I think Britain as well, with how like this backwards compatibility is basically a thing, and you expect that to just maintain going forward. It feels like you do a remake of 1 again, forget about 5 and 6, just remake 1 again, like in the same like engine as RE2 and 3. And I think games have got to the point where these remakes now will probably stand the test of time. Like, yeah, they will feel dated in 10 years or something, but probably not as bad as the games that came out 10 years ago or 20 years ago.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
A lot of it's just down to the like gameplay mechanics. Like I think they've said in that same quote you're reading from, Rob, just saying about updating the controls to a modern standard. I think you've got a lot of genres. Like I think Call of Duty and first-person shooters is pretty much nailed. I don't think first-person shooters really need that tweaking for the next however many. Like I can't imagine what's going to happen to really elevate it anymore. And I think similar for third-person over the shoulder. They've just kind of that we're no longer tank controls. We're no longer the D-pad for everything. And I think analog sticks, they're just going to be around forever until we get some kind of ethereal out-of-body experience thing. I think it's safe to assume, like Richie said, I think any game that comes out now,
controller's standardized now.
Absolutely.
Like there's not going to. innovations are things like going to be like adaptive triggers and like HD rumble and like this PlayStation put a touchpad on there, but it's like it's basically a big select button.
At its
Like,
core,
it's
I mean, one thing with Resident Evil, I think it's going to be a great game, but the issue they have now is the game that comes out a week before it, which is like the not Fallen Order, is it? It's
Jedi Survivor.
Jedi Survivor. Like that's going to be its problem.
Yeah, it is.
I know,
It
Chris,
feels
you're
like it
kind of
might
super
be-
into.
Yeah, like I'm going
it
for
feels like-
Survivor before Ari. Even though I've just given it its praises, and I'd definitely be interested in it. The fact that gaming is, again, expensive hobby and it's time consuming. If Jedi Survivor's like a 30, 40 hour game, I'm going to be playing this well into April and beyond, possibly. So Resident Evil 4 will have to take a back seat. And then the way the industry works is I might not get round to it until like Halloween or something. But next up for me is Jedi Survivor. Can't wait for it. I think it's the one game out of everything we've covered so far that I am absolutely guaranteed to get and play day one. We've waited, several years for it now, coming out quite imminently. Again, they kept it close to the chest quite a lot. And again, I'm just waiting for Cal Kestis to show up in a Disney Plus show. Like, he's got to pop up with like The Mandalorian or something.
100%,
I think The Mandalorian comes out in March, April as well, season 3. So very timely if they're coming out at the same time. Like, is there some synergy going in there? How old would Cal be in The Mandalorian? Because that's set... I'm trying to think. I'd never really know off the top of my head now.
I can never do
Yeah,
timelines for Star Wars.
The
TV shows.
Mandalorian's after Return of the Jedi, right? Or is it?
Yes,
is it?
because Boba Fett's in it. But it's Boba Fett after Return of the Jedi.
Right. Oh yeah, because he's escaped from the Sarlacc pit. Right. Yeah. So Cal.
Yeah, it's between the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy.
So Cal was
That's
an
where it's at.
apprentice then, wasn't he? When Order 66 happened. So realistically, he should be
So
an
he's-
older
he's-
guy. Too.
Yeah.
Like, I'd say, like, if he was a teenager or a young child, then he should be probably well into his 30s. So might have to age the actor up a little bit, but he could.
He's
be there.
older than Luke.
Yeah. So, but aside from that crossover stuff, just looking forward to just a more immersive Star Wars game. I think it's going to take everything that it learned on the first game, its criticisms and its flaws, and just fix them. And I can't wait for more of that. I think more enemies, more villains, more characters, and just what they can show of that world. I'm interested to know what free reign Respawn and EA, after the success of the first one, I think that's probably give them a lot of merits to be able to go back to Disney and say, actually, we'd like to use this character. Actually, can we have this character? And no spoilers for the first game, but there's quite a big character shows up on that, which was like the most badass moment in the game, which was awesome. And I think now they've got that whole world. It's like, well, actually, where do you go from there? And I'm intrigued by
There's
that.
some characters around that time of like Cal Kestis' story that are just. This is kind of before the Rebel. I think is he before the Rebel Alliance? Cal Kestis' story, like
I think there's rumors of
this
it
is-
happening, but it's
Yeah,
not like
it's like
what
it's
we
not-
see it as. Yeah.
yeah, it's in that kind of Andor-esque timeline.
Yeah.
Actually, there is characters out there like you've got things people like Ahsoka. She's got a series coming. He could appear there. You've got like Obi-Wan's chilling out on Tatooine. Like the Darth Maul's about somewhere, like in the world. You've got like these characters who are still alive that, they could draw into, and it's that interesting thing where they kind of left off a story and it's like, oh, where could this go? Like,
It's just like that's the great thing with Star Wars, isn't it? Like, they could just go to a planet that we've not seen since one of the movies. Like, take me back to like Megiddo or somewhere. I'm like, I haven't played this since Star Wars Battlefront 2, and nothing really happens on Megiddo in the movies other than like a random war scene, I think, with one of the Jedi. And just let me explore it. Like, I think you go back to the place where you get your kyber crystals with the ice palace, and then I think it showed up in one of the later movies. You're like, it's the worlds kind of that you exist within.
Yeah.
Yoda.
Yeah.
I want to see Yoda.
Yeah.
Like, that would be like an amazing like scene. Like, it's like it would kind of make sense that maybe Yoda like has a different mission for Cal. So like,
We haven't seen
He's
like a
like-
good video game rendition of Yoda either.
No.
yeah,
Not at all.
That can think of.
and it would be like the same Yoda that like Luke meets, but probably a bit younger, and maybe like Cal gets sent out to the Outer Rims, like on the track to find Exegol or something.
Yeah, well, we know
Like-
like Saw Gerrera was in the first game as like a cameo, So we know his kind of whole thing's going on somewhere in the world, which by proxy, like you said, all the Andor stuff is going on somewhere in the world. And he's just kind of in it somewhere, but very interesting. Just looking up to see kind of time frame that's in. Reception to Cal Kestis initially was positive reviews, with some expressing dissatisfaction. The final design was generic and dorky, and the actor got some backlash for the colour of his hair, and people were going as far as making mods just to change his hair. It's like, Jesus, like, calling it generic and dorky. He's like, that's what the dude looks like. That's a bit unfair.
You're just directly insulting the
actor. What does a Jedi look like? Anyone can be a Jedi. That was the whole point of that whole Last Jedi arc,
apart from gingers, apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
According to the internet.
That kid picking up the broom at the end, like, anyone can be a Jedi. But, I'm looking forward to it. Can't wait to see Jedi Survivor. And all these games we spoke about, the craziest thing is that they're all so soon as well. Like we will
be like the next 3 months, right?
They'll all be out and reviewed. We'll talk about them and cover them.
And the stuff we haven't even talked about yet. We haven't talked about Hogwarts Legacy.
Yeah, that's kind of, for me, looking at the list, I think for us collectively, probably Hogwarts Legacy is the next big one that's imminent, isn't it?
Was that February?
Yeah, that we haven't talked about. Like,
yeah,
I could see like Hogwarts Legacy potential in the conversation for Game of the Year, but also potential like completely forgotten about by March.
It's a very fine line, I think, with all the
if they nail
Rowling
it,
stuff is.
Rowling stuff aside, if they nail this game, because the world's phenomenal, like
the fan base is there.
Yeah, the fan base is there. If they nail this in terms of like the gameplay and the story they're telling, I do think this could be a Game of the Year contender. Like, I think this could be in the list alongside like Jedi Survivor, alongside Resident Evil 4.
See, this is like a pre-order in our house, not for me, but for my girlfriend.
Yeah.
And like she's like super, like really, really looking forward to it. Actually, more looking forward to watching me play it because she prefers to be like a kind of observer gamer, which is a thing I found out existed a while ago. I think like the one difference with this game compared to something like kind of Star Wars is that I think Star Wars has released more kind of gameplay. You know what you're getting, and I think it's going to be a more reliable hit. Whereas with Hogwarts Legacy and with Resident Evil 4 remake as well, like there's like some unanswered questions about it, which is kind of like.
Yeah, Hogwarts Legacy, it's leaning heavy on the IP at the moment.
Yeah,
there's actually much information on the game, right?
Yeah, if they nail the gameplay, but I mean the IP it's very solid and does lend itself quite well to games, I think. And this feels like actually the first Harry Potter-esque game that isn't just a like movie tie-in thing.
I think it is. Like they've never done something so
it feels
detached
long.
And
it feels long overdue for this game.
Yeah.
And again, if they nail the gameplay and then nail the story they're telling, which I think they could do.
Yeah.
But Warner Brothers isn't exactly on a winning streak at the moment.
No, I mean, again, let's just face it. The Fantastic Beasts franchise is like dead in the water. Like no one gives. Like that got messed up from so many different angles. From
I was thinking Warner Brothers games.
I mean,
like,
WB
not
games too.
The movies. Yeah.
The thing that does have me concerned for this, and I keep going, as someone who's like really into video games, and I try and take in all factors, is Avalanche, the developers, like looking back at their history. So before Hogwarts Legacy, just to read a few: Cars 3, Disney Infinity, Cars 2. Toy Story 3 tie-in, Bold, Hannah Montana, Meet the Robinsons, Chicken Little, Rugrats in Paris game, going back to the 90s, and it's just...
Rugrats was class, though. That was a fantastic
It was,
game.
but you can kind of sense where, looking at the studio, like, this is a big step up for them, like, from what... And like you said, Richie, riding the coattails on the IP, I just feel like this could be the moment where they really step up to the mark, but at the same time, because they're developing for more platforms than they've ever developed for before in next gen, last gen, and the Switch, I just hope it doesn't become too much for them at once. And like, if people get their hands on it, is because I think early doors there was some worry about like microtransactions in like the spellcasting. It looked in the trailers as though there was like perfect moments for like pop-ups to show and going, oh, if you want to buy more of this crafting material, pay X amount. And they came out and said, no. It's not what it is. It's not what it looks like. You have to earn them in game and stuff. But the legacy of the studio, no disrespect to all those previous games, but Hannah Montana Spotlight World Tour, doesn't quite fill me with the encouragement. But the game looks good.
For me,
did you not get the platinum for that game, Chris? Or?
I didn't know. It's trophies when I think back on the PS2 and the Wii.
It is that publisher at the moment that has me slightly worried, because recent Warner Brothers games haven't been to the standard of 2022. They just not quite got there, and and it feels like maybe and there's always things like Warner's trying to get rid of the game department. Sometimes they're saying it's up for sale, sometimes they're saying no, it's not, and that's got to have an impact in terms of the quality. And I hope that this is Avalanche went, you know what, we're going to ignore everything that's going on with the publisher. We've got the budget. We know we've got the talent. We've finally got an IP and a scope that we can actually really flex our creative muscles here and absolutely go for it.
Absolutely.
But, yeah.
Moving on then to the other Warner Brothers game, I guess we'll just round out some of the games that aren't really on our radar. Suicide Squad, Killer Justice League. I think Gotham Knights, I've been saying it for many months now, I think this is dead in the water. There's just something about this game and the time it's took to get out. Rocksteady have been working on it for 8 years now. Gotham Knights was 9 years. I think whether it's behind the scenes, WB stuff Richie just mentioned, I just don't care about the Suicide Squad as much as they want. Warner Brothers seemingly want us all to care about. I just really, really do not want to play as Captain Boomerang and Deadshot in a game when I could be playing as Batman, Superman, and the Flash.
They feel like B-tier characters,
and the Boomerang guys
even James Gunn couldn't give it the shot it needed.
It was fun, but I don't want 3-4 more movies with these guys. It's just move on.
Well, I mean, a Deadshot movie could be awesome, but it should have happened before Justice League. It should have happened before Suicide Squad.
Yeah. It's
Captain Boomerang's why would I care about this character who you pretty much killed off immediately?
Yeah, it's that tied in with that. It's 1 to 4 player co-op, and they say it is a main story. You can play it 1 player, but just the 4 player element gives me just bad vibes. Whether it's coming from the Avengers game or it's Gotham Knights game, it's no.
I think this is going to be worse than Marvel's Avengers.
Wow.
I think it's I'm not a fan of Marvel's Avengers, but when the stories are told were great, I don't think it even has that bit.
Which is saying something for Rocksteady, because again, their run of games so far was 3 amazing Arkham Batman games, all revered, all well received, albeit some mixed for some things, but it's been a long time in the oven. I think people's patience for waiting's just run out, and I think it's starting to have a detrimental impact on the marketing and stuff, because people are just
still not till May.
Yeah,
it's long. It's still 6 months away, and it's
after several delays, and I think Gotham Knights hasn't helped them
5
at
months,
all. Gotham Knights could have done amazing and really hyped people up for and we get another Batman style game in another half a year's time. That was bad.
It feels like they should have just spent 2022 just being quiet about this game.
Yeah. What else have we got though in the pipeline? Final Fantasy 16, I guess a big one for you, Richie.
Yeah, that's a bit later in the year.
Summer is all we know so far, so we don't have a set date for it.
Yeah, I think if we get a PlayStation showcase early this year, this could be a big highlight of that showcase. It feels like this is now entering 2023. If the games come out in summer, this is when you want to start ramping up the marketing for it a bit. But there again, it's going to be a big year for Final Fantasy, because we've just had Crisis Core. We've got Rebirth coming later in the year, this in the summer. So it's almost like I'm slightly wary, is this just going to be glossed over a bit because more eyes are on Rebirth?
Do you think it might be delayed?
I
pushed it back to next year just to make some room?
If it's going to be delayed, it would have to be delayed till summer 2024, because otherwise you're getting too close to Rebirth. And you do need to have a bit of a gap between them, I think.
Yeah, you don't oversaturate your player base.
So I think it is probably if it's done, I think it's better to get out sooner rather than later.
Fair point.
Yeah, I'd agree on that.
And then the only really thing for me left to talk about was probably Assassin's Creed Mirage. Again, Ubisoft have had just a terrible 2 years in a row, I feel like. We know about Skull and Bones, which we don't need to talk about Skull and Bones anymore. I think
We're not going to talk about it because it's not coming out next year.
It'll probably
I refuse
be
to
delayed
believe it's coming out.
once again. Again, kind of suffering from the Suicide Squad problem, if not worse off. Assassin's Creed Mirage, taking that kind of Ubisoft Assassin's Creed formula and condensing it down to what they've said is going back to their roots and more parkour, more stealth, more assassins, and focused on a linear story. So I'm hoping to see that, because Ubisoft, it's been a long time since they put out anything along those lines, and hopefully we'll maybe start to see them pivot towards doing that with other titles like Splinter Cell they've talked about, and a couple of other things. Because I think Ubisoft, Richie, we've mentioned many times, they get just a bit carried away in their own copy and paste asset sharing between all the studios, which is great for putting out tons of big open world games, but I think
it's
as the
it's a good production line, but it's a creative industry.
Yeah, it created
You
more
need both.
problems than it has
Yeah.
long term. And then I think the final Ubisoft one, which we don't know about still, is Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. Should have came out this Christmas, just gone. Now we should be playing it now, and it's been delayed and pushed back. And then the Avatar movies came out, doing very well apparently. Haven't seen it yet. And yeah, we just kind of, it's Avatar but with Far Cry. Don't know more, but
I'm getting elements
Here's
here where
one-
it's like it was a movie tie-in game, but now it doesn't have a movie.
But there is another
that's
one
what
coming
I'm-
out next year, right? Because the Avatar
True,
one's
yeah,
supposed to be every
yeah.
year. So at least they've got a bit of a wiggle room in terms of if the movie supposedly just passed like what $1 billion gross market, whatever it was. So
Really, I've just heard nothing about Avatar.
yesterday passed the 1 billion
Yeah.
mark.
The crazy thing
I
is,
just
I've heard nothing
Nothing.
about it, but apparently it's doing insanely well. So I'm,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm just out the loop
might
or
just be-
whatever.
maybe.
I'll admit, over the last week, I've intention being out the loop. I've just like switched off from the world a bit over my Christmas break.
True.
But it's an IP I don't particularly care about either, so I was like,
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
And then I guess rounding things out, gentlemen, just a quick glance at PlayStation Studios. We've got Marvel Spider-Man 2 apparently, which we don't. It's just more Spider-Man. I can't wait for it. It's probably after Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's probably my next big highlight. If they hit the date, that is. I'm not sure if this one's maybe a bit too soon from Insomniac. They had a big quick turnaround time with Ratchet and Clank, Miles Morales, and Spider-Man, and then they announced Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine. The saving grace, I think, with Spider-Man being a lock-in is Insomniac have been very reliable, and you've got to imagine it still takes
New
place
York's
in New
already
York,
built.
right? Yeah, so the gameplay exists, the world exists, you just need to do something.
you'll
with
change it up a bit, but I think like the size of the map's probably not going to change. Most of the key landmarks, they're not going
Do
to
you
change.
think they have to
like-
do something though? Otherwise, at what point does it stop being a sequel? It's more just DLC with story content.
I think they do need to do something, but I don't know what you can do because like you can't massively change it. It's New York.
Yeah,
like,
it is its own thing.
yeah,
does he go
it's
to
a real
Europe,
world
like in the
thing that
movies?
you've decided.
Yeah, maybe they do like a
Far from home.
far
thing.
from home type of thing.
Yeah, you probably do need to have some stuff away from New York. I mean, we do know it's dual protagonists, Miles and Peter, and during Miles Morales, Peter was away from New York. So maybe we get to play through that bit of his story, and he comes back to kind of help Miles with whatever's going on in New York, and that's how you work it or something.
Or do we see Spider-Verse? That's how you get him out of New York. You just send him through a portal to a completely different dimension. And that's where he meets Wolverine, when he brings him in for his game.
Maybe, but I think it's Venom, this one, so I think maybe not Spider-Verse. Like, it feels like you've thrown too much in if you go on Spider-Verse and Venom all in one
Spider-Man
go.
throwing too much in one go. Never seen that happen.
Yeah, I've never, ever done that before many times.
But other than that, gents, in terms of the other studios, I think we are just waiting for essentially a big showcase from PlayStation just to really kickstart the year off. It's been rumoured for some time. We don't know why. Stuff's been moved around, but Sony Bend, don't know what they're working on after Days Gone. We know it's not a Days Gone sequel, so we've got them in the pipeline. Days Gone came out probably a good few years ago now, right? It was like 2019, 2018. So they've got something cooking in the oven. We don't know what Blue Point are working on since their acquisition. They obviously did Demon's Souls for the PS5 launch. That was over 2 years ago now. So they should be about halfway cooking something. You've got all the studios they've acquired. Obviously, Guerrilla just put out Horizon Forbidden West. They've got the DLC to be working on, and they've got the VR game called The Mountain. So they're probably quite busy as it stands. Haven, I think they're a long way off. They've newly formed last year, bought Jade Raymond led, so I think nothing to see for quite a while from them. We've just mentioned Insomniac and Spider-Man. Naughty
It's
Dog.
KOTOR, Knights of the Republic
that's-
remake. That's published Sony.
Yeah, but didn't that get nixed because the development studio showed it off to someone, right, and it was that bad that it was taken off the development because they're publishing it, but it's not developed by them.
Yeah.
There was a whole hoo-ha about that earlier in the year.
Yeah.
Um,
It's just on this list from Games Radar under Aspire, so...
yeah, Spire's not Sony owned, so it's
So
just published by them. That's been pushed
Yeah.
back. The only really one for me, I guess, Sucker Punch, you're working on a Ghost of Tsushima 2. I think we're probably still a good year or two out from that for a sequel. Got 20...
Yeah, I'd want to see that 2024, I think.
Yeah.
It'll be way too soon, 2023, I think.
Media Molecule, what the hell are they doing? Because let's face it, Dreams shit the bed. They've spent far too long working on it and no one cares about it at all. Like, what are they doing? Like, Little Big Planet was huge for them, and I feel like they've just not really... Like, I feel like Media Molecule have got such a creative team because of what they make. This is now, like, go do your own thing. Like, actually make a game. Stop trying to make engines and creative stuff and actually just put out a solid game. Because other than that series and then Tearaway, I think, for the Vita, which was probably 8-9 years ago as well, like, they've not really done anything. And I think there must be
questions being asked, like, what are these guys actually kind of bringing to the table now?
Yeah.
It's like...
And I think in another year, another era where acquisitions of Microsoft and content went ramping up so much, I think they would have been on the chopping block. But I think because of the way the industry is right now, why would Sony close them down and then go and acquire another studio in like half a year's time? If you've already got the studio, I think that's what may be saving them right now, because we've seen them be quite ruthless in the past and shut down like several studios. So
and there's an argument that says like they are like overdue, really, but hopefully we can turn it around.
The reception of Dreams is quite good. It was like 89 on Metacritic.
But no one played it,
But-
bought it, or talked about it. So
Yeah, I'm wondering, is it one of them, like, it was critically well received for what it's done in its
it
vision?
won a Grammy for
then gamers-
art direction or something.
Yeah, but then gamers are just like...
It's not a game.
To
It's
be honest,
not
I
a
don't- you
game.
don't-
That's the problem. It's not a game. It's a engine. It's a game engine to make. Like, I've seen so many things of like, look how someone's remade Resident Evil in Dreams. It's like, that's interesting. That's cool.
I think it's...
Not for me.
I think it's a cult following game.
Yeah, it needs to be on PC. Get a PC port done and let the modders just go to town on this engine.
You know what? You're probably right there. That could breathe a new life into the game, especially if you have that crossplay element of it. So you could like develop the game on PC, but then also publish it onto PlayStation. Like,
Yeah. Any final ones for you guys out of this list? Polyphony are obviously just chipping away at Gran Turismo. We don't need to worry about them.
is that
it's
one
not
from Don't
necessarily
Nod?
on the list.
That looked interesting.
From who?
Don't Nod. We saw. I think it was a Game Awards, so it looks like they're making like an action game. I'm trying to remember what it was called. Banishers Ghosts of New Eden. That's meant to be next year. I think we've only seen it once at Game Awards, but it's like, yeah, that's meant to be next year.
Yeah, it's a bit of an interesting one with the games because you've also got all the VR stuff coming out as well. It's a busy year for Sony when you think about it. They've got loads of stuff to presumably announced. They've got loads of hardware incoming. And we just kind of don't know. We don't really know what Microsoft's doing either. So I think we're poised to have something fun and exciting. Just see where it goes. Any final thoughts then? Oh, we think we've talked about all the games we need to talk about.
It's going to be an
this week.
expensive first half of the year, like first quarter of the year anyway, isn't it, really?
And we've only looked at the blue half.
Yeah, if you're committed to the gaming this year and you're like, you know what, I've pre-ordered my VR2 headset, you maybe just got a PS5 for Christmas, you've got your eyes on a DualSense Edge controller, you're talking upwards of like $2,000 already, just with it.
Yeah,
I don't think 2022 has been a vintage year in games. There's a few big hits, like God of War Ragnarok, Elden Ring, but there was a lot of like dead space. Well, not the game, but there's like
not much dead space.
in like where there's not that much of interest coming out. And I think because of COVID and the delays of the last few years, everything's kind of just slipped back, and 2023 looks like it's going to be absolutely stacked.
Yeah.
So I need a bigger bank balance and more time off work.
That can be done.
It's okay.
That can be done.
Skull and Bones is going to consume our lives for all of 2023.
You know what, I'd like it to, just so they can come out, the devs, and be like, we told you it was a great game.
I hope it's good. I do. I really do. I don't expect it will be.
Ubisoft need a big...
Well, I expect it will be absolutely fine. And if you're into that persistent online thing, I think you could have a really good time with it. That's my expectation. I expect us to maybe like enjoy a stream or two, and then like that's it for us.
We shall see. We shall see. But we'll have to wait because 2023 is all ahead of us right now. Happy New Year once again to all of our wonderful listeners out there and viewers, and a special extra shout out to all of our Helix heroes as well, the people who've supported us that extra little bit further. Just like you can, if you've enjoyed our content any point over the last 3 years, consider clicking join below on the YouTube video. From as little as 99 pence, you get access to early content, this very show, CloudQuest, stickers, badges next to your name in the chat, and of course you help us bring you better content all the time. Don't forget to like, subscribe, click that bell so you keep in the loop with all the great content like all of our other shows, but more importantly the up and coming CloudQuest Show, which launches in 2 weeks time, rounding up The Last of Us HBO adaptation, hitting your screens in 2 weeks time. Follow at the CloudQuest on Twitter, at Helix Plays Games as well, and you can find all of us on social feeds too. For the year ahead 2023, Rob, are we looking at socials for you so people can get in touch with you at some point?
Yeah, maybe I might come out of the cold.
Come out of the cold, because you're in the Discord. I saw someone say, like, I can't remember who it was, I think it was Sarge or something, basically saying Happy New Year, and he was trying to tag you but he didn't have, it was just like, and Rob, because he couldn't find it, but you are in the Discord.
You are, yeah.
But it's like what to search for, so we'll get round to that. But from everyone at Helix Plays Games, thank you for your continued support throughout 2022, and thank you for your continued support for the year ahead. My name's been Chris.
I've been Richie.
And I've been Rob.
Have a great time, folks. See you next time. Take care. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.